for the government. What happens when the public treasury becomes a public trough? Tonight, dependency and the federal government. When FDR talked Congress into his idea of Social Security in 1935, he actually pulled a fast one. Social Security would be a savings account, he argued. You pay a little each week, the federal government will hold on to the money for you. When you retire, he claimed, the federal government will slowly pay that money back to you. It won't be a pension, it will supplement your savings. With the population increasing, he privately told his advisors that there would always be more money coming in than was going out. And then he let them in on a secret. The secret was that this devil's pact, you pay in, the feds pay out, from age 65 until you die, was rigged to favor the government. You see, in 1935, the average male American life expectancy was 60. The government didn't start paying Social Security until age 65. So go for it, fellas, FDR boasted. We'll make money on this deal. Watching all this from the sidelines was a young Texas congressman who was enamored with FDR's regal style and ironclad control of Congress. 30 years later, when he was in the White House, he added health care to Social Security. He basically enhanced the Ponzi scheme with Medicare. The principle and the argument were the same. You pay in, the feds pay out. If you lived beyond 70, you got more than you gave. If you died before 70, the feds made money. This president, it was Lyndon Baines Johnson, also knew that most wartime American presidents were considered to be great presidents by historians. So he started a useless war in Vietnam. Between that war and his new Medicare entitlement and FDR's old Social Security program, the government began to borrow heavily in order to pay all its bills. We all know how wrong FDR and LBJ were. Eventually, folks started living longer. Eventually, the feds raided the bank accounts where the contributions to Social Security and Medicare were kept. Eventually, the payments that started out at $25 a month would go up to $2,500 a month. Eventually, Congress would expand these programs to cover all workers except for members of Congress themselves. Soon, Social Security and Medicare would be paying out much more than they took in. They would be seen for what they were, classic Ponzi schemes. FDR and his misguided protege committed fraud. The feds robbed bank accounts they were legally obliged to keep intact. Both programs now owe $70 trillion more than they have or are projected to take in. The baby boomers are retiring and entering the system at a rate of 10,000 persons a day. And we are stuck with all of this. The problems that FDR and LBJ dumped on us are unfair to us and unfair to the folks they were intended to help. Generations of hard-working Americans who paid into the system are entitled to get that money back. But because Congress permitted the Treasury Department to take the funds being held in trust, there's no money there to give back. Stated differently, generations of hard-working Americans were duped by the government when they paid into Social Security and Medicare. Their money did not go into an investment for them. It went to the same place that all federal revenue goes, the Treasury, the federal trough, for politicians to spend as they wish. Their answer? Debt. Use the Federal Reserve to print cash and lend it to the Treasury. That, of course, not only created the legal obligation to repay the loans, it also devalued the cash already in existence. If you or I lied and duped and raided bank accounts like the followers of FDR and LBJ did, we'd be prosecuted. But because the Congress writes the laws, it can even write laws that permit lawlessness. And as if all this weren't bad enough, there is a specter haunting all this. It is the specter of dependency. FDR and LBJ may have been liars and crooks, but they weren't stupid. They knew that if they could get generations of folks, generally in their senior years, to be dependent on the federal government for their income and their health care in those years, those folks would vote to keep in power whoever promised them the most. And the public treasury would become a public trough. It is time for this dependency to end. Tomorrow on Freedom Watch, Congress wants to destroy the Fourth Amendment with an extension of the Patriot Act, and we're all over it. From New York, defending freedom.